Welcome to the Lean Blog Podcast. Visit our website at www.leanblog.org. Now, here's your host, Mark Graban.
Hi, this is Mark Graban. This is episode number 75 of the Lean Blog Podcast for October 5th, 2009. Our guest today is Peter T. Ward, a professor at Ohio State University's Fisher College of Business, and he's also the chair of the Department of Management Sciences. He's a leading expert in lean management, and he's president of the Lean Education Academic Network, or LEAN. So in the podcast today, we're going to be talking about formal lean education that's taking place in university settings and about Professor Ward's efforts to help standardize and share best practices in lean education. So as always, thanks for listening. Well, Peter, I'd like to thank you for taking some time out and joining us here today on the Lean Blog Podcast.
Hey, Mark, it's just great to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah, so I thought we could start, have you introduce yourself for the listeners, talk about your background and maybe more specifically how you got involved with Lean.
Sure. I am a professor at Ohio State. I hold the Russ Chair in management at Ohio State. I'm also the chair of the Department of Management Sciences. So in terms of the titles and what have you, I guess that's enough. My interest in Lean really dates back to my days before I was a professor, when I was working for companies as a manufacturing engineer and a manufacturing engineering manager back in the early '80s, where I was trying to figure this stuff out and reading books and trying to make sense of what eventually became known as Lean. With not a lot of success, and that and other things drove me to get a PhD and become a professor and develop a research interest in sort of how you use operations to improve performance. And my early experiences with what we call JIT always influenced my thinking, and that became about 12, 13 years ago, that became a bit more of an issue for me as I worked with companies at Ohio State through our Center for Operational Excellence who were struggling with lean concepts. And it finally occurred to me that I really want to learn a little bit more about this and get more serious about my pursuit of lean. And I did that. I had a number of just great mentors who helped me out in that. And over the years, I've learned, and as I've learned, I've tried to incorporate my learning into our curriculum, and that's sort of where I am with this at this point. So,
how has the curriculum evolved during your time at Ohio State in terms of teaching Lean as coursework or integrating that into different programs that you have there at the university?
Yeah, well, we started with an elective course in the MBA program, and I had the opportunity to work with Ford's group, a group of people that outsiders that Ford invited in to work with their suppliers in kind of a lean network. And that was made up of executives from supplier companies and also some consultants, and it was just a great group of lean thinkers. And as we got to know each other and working with this group, they constantly challenged me about the rework that they had that they claimed I produced. My students didn't know anything about lean, and they had to teach them. And why can't we do something about that? Why can't we get rid of this rework? Yeah. And my answer to them was, well, help me make a course, and we'll do that. And that was sort of the beginning of it. And so again, with a lot of great help from people at Ford and people at Ford suppliers and consultants, including John Shook. John Shook was a big help in getting this going because he had done some academic work at the University of Michigan. We got this elective going, and it was popular right from the start. So, the students loved it. We put them in internships in the summer, but we aimed it at that first-year MBA, so they had a internship opportunity in the summer, and we tried to get them placed in companies that would allow them to take their very rudimentary skills and great enthusiasm, and bring it to a company and go and work on it, and develop those skills further. And what happened is we had a popular course, and we said, well, what are we going to do with it? And what I started doing was encouraging my colleagues to take some of the material that we taught in the elective course and put into the core course, so that everybody in the MBA program would have to take learn certain concepts. Mm-hmm. It's still true that every student in Fisher College will have at least owned Learning to See for a period of time. They all they all buy the book, and they learn the rudiments of diagram mapping, and with some exercises and what have you, and they learn that in that core course. Okay, so we pushed again some of the tools that were applicable into our core course, and that allowed us more time to go in more depth and do more trips to Gemba in the elective course. And again, the course remains. We've been doing it for about 12 years now, and the course remains very popular as an elective, and has allowed us to sort of expand our offering. So that we started a few years later, we started offering Six Sigma, and then we got into very involved in projects, Lean Sigma kinds of projects and companies. We put teams of MBA students into companies, and they work on projects, and with the idea being that the operational excellence is really about going to the place, going to Gemba, mm-hmm. and to the extent possible, we wanted to figure out all the ways we could to get our students to Gemba, and to give them that reinforcement of the how the tools work, and sort of how the thinking works. And it was just so necessary to get some hands-on. So we built more hands-on into our program, and that's a continuing journey. Along the way, we did we replicated in our undergraduate program what we had done in the MBA program, so that we offer courses in Lean and Six Sigma and project opportunities in our undergraduate program as well. And we also have all of our undergraduate students also by Learning to See and learn the diagram map in the core operations class, so they're all exposed to that. And this is great. It helps really helps our students when they go on a job interview and at least talk the talk. And I think employers are willing to bet that these kids will also learn to walk the talk if they give them an opportunity. So I think it gives our kids an edge in the job marketplace, and that's been very gratifying. Yeah. So we've worked on both our MBA program and our undergraduate program. We even have I've had several students write dissertations on Lean-related topics, and so we're creating a little bit of a professorate out there. So these people go to other schools and becomes professors and bring Lean course with them. Mm-hmm. So we're starting to propagate that way. And then finally, we just last December we launched our Master's in Business Operational Excellence master's degree, and that's a one-year degree program aimed at working professionals, at practicing managers, really. And in that, we really strive to create thought leaders in operational excellence with lots and lots of practical exercise. The students work on a project. The project are designed to be of strategic importance to their company. Mm-hmm. That's the recompense to the company for sending the student and supporting them in their efforts, is that the project ought to more than pay off in terms of the tuition and lost time that the student gets from attending the program. So that has been, and we're about halfway through our first year with that. We have a pilot class. We're delighted with the progress that's being made on projects, the student learning, the enthusiasm. So we're really optimistic that this is going to be a great program for us in years to come.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious before maybe talk about the master's program a little bit. One thing I'm curious about hearing you talk about the role of the companies that help influence the program in an academic setting. How do you view customer, student, as well as the industry, future employers? How do you view or take into account those different stakeholder perspectives?
Yeah, we sure have a complicated model in terms of the stakeholders, and I always look at it as students are customers when it comes to getting their parking pass and dorm assignments and what have you. But they're co-producers when it comes to the educational process. They're not customers. I do think of our companies as customers for our product, and certainly our companies think about that in that way. So it is kind of a complicated customer relationship, but nonetheless it's an important one. It's important for us to understand it. And one of the things that I've tried to do in my role as a leader in my department is to take the voice of that customer, take the voice of our companies into consideration as we design our curriculum. Mm-hmm. And our Center for Operational Excellence is, we currently have 28 companies who are members of that. And each of these companies has a board member, typically vice president of operations. And they, I ask these people a lot about our curriculum. And, matter of fact, right now I'm scheduling with one of our board members, scheduling a meeting between some of the key leaders in our curriculum development and various programs and the HR development and operations people from his company to just kind of talk about our curriculum and where they think it falls short and where they think it's great, and just sort of a process of identifying where we might improve it. And I think that's just absolutely necessary. I mean, of course, we think about this from a lean perspective. We always think about the customer first. Mm-hmm. And I think in lean education, it's got to be the same way. We got to think about that customer first. And of course, the student isn't left out of this process either. But the student has particularly graduate students, have a lot of voice already.
Yeah.
And so we certainly don't ignore them. But I think that it's much easier to leave the companies out, and so I always try to be especially careful to reflect their thinking and their needs as we change our curriculum.
Yeah. And with the students from the master's program, what is there a typical profile of the background or experience level of who's coming into the program?
Yeah, we purposely, again, this is our first year of the program. And we purposely went for a fairly diverse set of experiences because we just wanted to see how it worked out. So we went after non-manufacturing people in particular. Manufacturing is sort of an easier audience, So we went after non-manufacturing people as well. So we wanted to make sure that we had some service folks involved in the program. We wanted a good bit of experience. And we took most of it. I think the average experience is probably 12 or 13 years of experience and work experience among our students. Variations, fairly great. We had a couple of people who were quite young, and a couple of people who were quite senior. But nonetheless, that experience level is generally pretty high. What we're seeing is that all of the students are doing well in the class because we kind of handpicked them, and it was there's lots of opportunities for them to get help because it's such a small program. So we're seeing a lot of success, but we do see the wisdom of requiring experience, and that's sort of one of our learnings is that experience is really pretty critical to being able to succeed in this program. I think we have good experience teaching undergraduates and what have you, but it's the level of understanding that they get is much different, and much different than we expect in this master's program.
And if somebody's interested in looking at more information about the program, is there an easy web address, or what should people Google search for?
Yeah, you could just search for MBOE via Google, and it'll pop up. Mm-hmm. There's also a direct web address. That's fisher.osu.edu/MBOE, and that'll get you right there.
Okay, great. And so there's been a lot of progress over the past decade or so at Ohio State. You've also been involved in more of a global network of lean educators. So I was wondering if you could spend some time introducing the listeners to that.
Yeah, we've got for about 5 years now, we have had a network that we call LEAN, L-E-A-N, mm-hmm. Lean Educator Academic Network, which consists of about 300 professors around the world who are passionate one way or another about teaching lean concepts in academic programs. And that's sort of the restriction we have, is that we're not talking about executive ed programs. We're not talking about continuing ed where we're charging companies money to send people. What we're really talking about is how do we teach this stuff in an academic setting. Yeah. So there's 1 or 2 hour blocks where we have students for 10 or 15 weeks in a class. How do we teach lean concepts there, which is different and to some extent difficult. There's just lots of great materials out there that have been developed in companies. And companies are often very generous about sharing their material and their games and exercises and what have you. But they have to be adapted to work in the classroom. So there's we do a lot of sharing of secrets in this network, and trying to figure that out. And we also talk about how do we move lean curriculum forward in an academic setting, which is not always a really receptive place for this stuff.
And why do you think that is?
Well, I think there's just lots of competition. Mm-hmm. There's lots of thoughts and lots of thinking going around in a business school or engineering school or in a university as a whole. Okay, and lots of smart people who all think their stuff is number one. So in terms of the marketplace of ideas, we have to be good about getting out there and telling our story. And we're handicapped a little bit by the fact that students come in with a bias that operations is all about manufacturing, and manufacturing is dead in America. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe either of those, but that's certainly the belief that many students come in. So you got to overcome that, and we talk about that. What are the strategies? Because I'll tell you, our experience certainly in teaching lean is that students love it. They're excited by it. Typically we give them some hands-on exercises and try to get them. In a missionary role, we try to get them excited, and it typically works. So the courses are popular once you get them in place. You just got to get them in place and figure out ways to get students into companies, because it's not, this is not a classroom art, right? It's something that we got to do, and we have to practice. The ice cream maps only make sense if you got a value stream, so we got to get there and figure out ways to make that work. And there's lots of creativity in the Lean network. So the sharing is just great. So we meet annually, and we also have a website, teachinglean.org. So there's some sharing that goes on via the website. There's also some spirited discussion that goes on a listserv where people ask questions of their colleagues and get various answers and what have you. So it's really been gratifying to see that organization work well and take off. I'd like to see it be bigger. I'd like to see it incorporate more disciplines. I'd love to get more of my finance colleagues, engaged in lean and thinking about the advantages of lean to top and bottom line. But that's those are battles that we continue to fight. But I just think you got to keep your legs moving and eventually some progress is made.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, I appreciate the introduction and the update on the progress that you're making, both at Ohio State University and the Lean, the academic network. So appreciate you taking some time out. And if anyone's got questions or follow-up or feedback for Peter, I'm sure they can find you also by Googling you, or if you want to leave comments on the blog, I can forward if there's any follow-up questions for Peter that way as well. So really appreciate you sharing your story here today.
Definitely. It's been a pleasure, Mark. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Bye now.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Lean Blog Podcast. For Lean news and commentary updated daily, visit www.leanblog.org. If you have any questions or comments about this podcast, email Mark at leanpodcast@gmail.com.